have survived the day. Alrighty, we are back. You have all done a wonderful job today. It's not an easy trip when you travel anywhere from 11 or 12 to 15 miles on this trip, and it's a long day. We left here with our snacks and our water bottles and our lunches, and we've returned tired, but a lot more understanding and a lot more knowledge of than we left with here this morning. As we get ready to go home and take your bikes back to your classrooms and prepare to leave for the day, just one quick reminder. Behind us, as we look at the opposite ends of Busenbark Road here, behind Edgewood Elementary School, we are reminded of our history by this old, abandoned, important in its day farmhouse. It sits out there all alone now. No one lives there. There was a time, of course, when it was the center of a thriving farm. Families that grew up there, husbands and wives that raised their children and made a living on a family farm. When we look to the other side, it's the extreme of modern technology. Everything that a school could even think about, could even hope to have, is housed in Edgewood High School. We are so lucky, so fortunate to live here in this part of Butler County where we have these opportunities. Someday you will attend Edgewood High School. I hope you think back to what it was like to have gone to school 200 years before that on the other side of the road at Busenbark School, with a 1 or 2 room school, 10 or 12 students, a teacher or two, at a time when there were no modern conveniences. Times have changed. We are fortunate to be American citizens, and I want all of you to just be proud of where you live. When I started this trip 25 years ago, all I was thinking at that time was just simply to share the knowledge that I was gaining and to be able to explain where do we live, why are their names what they are, just the information. 25 years later, my goal has changed somewhat. I still want to share that information, but I want you at the end of today to be proud to be an American, to be fortunate, to know of the fortune that you have to have been born a United States citizen. Take your knowledge, take your pride, and let it follow you throughout your lifetime, and make America the nation that it was designed by our founding fathers to be. Have a great evening and share your stories with your family. After 25 years of the Edgewood Historical Backroads Bike Tour, there are many people who need to be thanked for their contribution and their support of this endeavor. Every 5th grade and 6th grade teacher who ever got on a bicycle and helped to supervise their students, who drove a truck or drove a car to help haul the lunches and the water bottles, the parents who also drove a pickup truck and maybe helped with a bicycle that might have broken down on our travels, the Butler County Sheriff's deputies on bicycles, motorcycles, and in cruisers, who kept us safe through all of these years of every road that we've traveled in all of this time. I want to thank the mayor of 7 Mile, Vivian Gorsuch. I need to thank the Trenton City Police, who have also at times lent a hand when we were shorthanded from Butler County. I want to thank the administrators of Edgewood School District who have supported us through all the years. I specifically want to thank the former principal of Edgewood Middle School, Dale Robertson. He was reluctant when the trip was presented to him as a possibility. He was reluctant to approve it. It was a big undertaking with many possibilities of problems, but he was willing to give it a try, And without his approval at the beginning, it would have never even gotten off to a start. We would have never had one time to get on our bicycles to go. I specifically want to thank Mr. Robertson for his approval of this trip. I want to thank the family of the late Marilyn Edwards, who wrote the history of 7 Mile. I want to thank Doris Page from Trenton for her many books that she wrote about the history of this area, of Boozenbark and Trenton and Williamsdale and all the surrounding areas. I particularly also want to thank retired teachers Bert Shepard and Ann Brown, who at the very beginning helped me learn the history that I didn't know and wanted to be able to share with my students. They were 7th and 8th grade history teachers at Edgewood Middle School for many years. And the parents and grandparents of this school district had them as their teachers. So Bert and Ann, thank you so much for helping me just get it started. I want to thank the family of Lyle Robertson and Hubert Malacote for bringing these 2 World War veterans to Hickory Flat Cemetery to help lay the flags and set flags at the graves of our soldiers who had passed many decades before these 2 gentlemen also were soldiers in World War II. I want to thank a young lady who is now in her 30s, Sierra Robertson. Sierra was the one student who was a 5th grader the year that we began the trip. So that I would know if this trip was even doable, I had Sierra get on her bicycle, and we left these grounds here at Edgewood Elementary School, then Edgewood Middle School, and we made the route. We took our lunch and we went all the way to 7 Mile, ate our lunch, and came back without incident. And we knew then this trip can be done by a 5th grader, because it was close to 15 miles to do that, and she survived just fine. I also want to thank the family of the late Chief Peters, the former 7 Mile police chief, who also many years attended our students as we traveled on this trip. Brad Spurlock and the staff of Lane Public Library, both and Rebecca Evans at the Oxford Library and Brad at the Hamilton Library, who helped with so much of the research over these many years. All of the property owners who allowed us year after year after year to park our bicycles in their cornfields and in their driveways and in their front yards while we talked about the history of the location where these particular people lived. Thank you to each one of you. The list goes on, and I know I will be leaving someone out. I want to thank my daughter, Annie Klink, for taking the time out of her busy schedule with young children to record our trip this year and to get it all down so future generations can also enjoy this information. Thank you to all of the parents who packed lunches, made sure your kids' bikes were in working order, bought them a helmet, and brought them to school that morning. And many of you rode with your children and then picked them up at the end of the day and listened to the stories that they told you at supper time that night. I want to thank each and every person in the Edgewood School District who put up with us when we kept your cars from being able to get to where you were going, made you late on your trip some mornings when all of our bikes were also out there on the roads. Thank you to all of you, and I hope that you always will remember how important Edgewood School District, Butler County, St. Clair Township, and the state of Ohio are in our history as Americans. Thank you. For any of you who have found that you are very interested in the history of Ohio, Butler County, St. Clair Township, 7 Mile, Trenton, any of the surrounding areas from which you have heard a lot of stories over the course of the day, here is a list of the covers of many of the books that I have used over the years to put this trip together. They are valuable resources, as well as also the Butler County Historical Society, the Ohio Historical Society,